Ratio Ray, I'm your show host, Chris Reshotar. If you have not been listening to this segment, we have been talking about some awesome stuff. We've hit what's going on with the interest rate environment. It's way low. We've got Preston Salen from Home Inspection Carolina. He's a home inspector, owns his own business, and we are going to jump into an awesome topic. And we've had Laura Miller from Remax Executive talking about how to interview a realtor to get ready to sell your home. Preston, we've got this last segment to talk about the deadly sins of home inspection or deal killers that could potentially kill you in the middle of the process of either buying and selling. So let's jump into your topic and let's hear it from you, man.
Okay, well, I sort of got it from the Bible or whatever, 7 deadly sins.
That's right.
But actually,
that's the Old Testament and New Testament,
right?
Yeah.
But what I did was compiled a list of 7 things that I've seen that can kill a deal. But what I'd like to do is do a workaround. Almost every one of these things can be, if you have an experienced agent, loan officer, if everybody is competent, there's a workaround on just about every one of these. But these are historically some things I've seen that would kill a deal. Number 1 is mold. Number 2 is termite damage. Number 3 is high moisture, especially in the crawl space. Number 4 is aluminum wiring, and we can expand on any of these. 5 is GFCI outlets, and that's ground fault circuit interrupter outlets that are required.
But break it down for us.
I will. And polybutylene piping. We'll talk about that. That can
big stuff.
Yes.
That can be a deal killer. And then, of course, unpermitted additions coming in at
huge
number
right
7.
now. Huge.
So I'll let you guys choose which one would you want to dive into first, or in order.
Let's talk about fungus among us. That's
Fungus
Bill Gallagher.
among us.
That's his favorite
Yeah,
saying,
oh
right?
God.
Mold.
Yes.
Mold. Well, mold has a real scare value, and I'm not saying that mold isn't a problem. You've got the Stachybotrys, the different Aspergillus. That there's a whole lot, but there's mold in this room. There's mold. If you've ever
not
eaten,
all mold's bad.
right? If you've ever eaten cheese or
that's
wine,
right. That's right.
there's mold.
My favorites.
And there are some people with incentives to use some scare tactics, much like what's going on in the news media today. But we won't get into that. I know we talked on
that's a whole different show for politics, not here.
Right.
But go ahead.
But most of the time, when you have a mold problem, a mold needs 3 things to grow. It needs air, it needs a food source, and it needs moisture. And the food source can be dust. So you really can't do anything about the air or the dust. It's there. It's the moisture that's usually the controllable component.
Right.
And when you have mold, especially any type of toxic mold, you have some sort of chronic moisture problem. You show me mold, I'll show you a moisture problem.
And that has to be tested.
Exactly. And that, I'm glad you mentioned that, Laura. That's exactly what I want to beat home on this, is get it tested. There's a lot of, I might get some angry calls, but I don't care. Mold remediation companies out there that don't want to test it.
No.
I mean, they're in the mold remediation sales business. And you get a mold test, it comes back, and you need it interpreted. We can do it. There's plenty of other companies out there that do it, but you want an unbiased one that's not doing remediation.
They're not just trying to sell you the big remediation right after.
Right. They're, like, you're a realtor. You want to sell houses. You're a mortgage person. You want to sell loans. I want to sell home inspections. Well, think what a mold remediation specialist wants to do. Now, that's fine if he's just selling it to people who need it. But if there's incentive, if somebody calls, I think I have a mold problem, let's come out there and test it. Well, no, you really don't. There's that pig, there was a poultry house behind you that's causing that smell that was out in the farm. But they didn't want, I won't get into that, but that's experience. They have incentives at times. Now, not all mold remediation, but the bottom line is get it tested.
Have to get tested.
And if you
and it can be properly remediated so that somebody can occupy that home safely for the rest of the time that they own that home. And that's the important part, is while there might be mold, the buyer needs to understand that it can be remediated, it can be tested, remediated, and corrected so that the home is very safe for anybody to live in.
That's correct. And there's some mold, and another thing that'll cause it is stagnant air. If you get a house, and I would tell this to sellers, if your house is vacant, at least have the HVAC system on a conservative setting, or some fans. You need some air circulation.
Good suggestion.
It can be remediated, and there's some traditional remediations. I would like to, and I'm not getting paid, but there's something out there called Green Home Solutions. They use an enzyme that kills off naturally, and they have I forget the warranty, but it's like a long warranty, and it's a lot less cost. I am not being paid by them, but
that's okay.
I think
That's
it's a lot less cost.
So if you've got more questions about the mold aspect, then we can connect you with Preston Let me give you his number. That's 704-542-6575 if you have questions about this mold stuff. Let's talk about termites. We see that
Okay.
a lot here.
Termite damage. There's a saying, if you live in the South, you either have termites or you just haven't found them yet.
Right.
And people moving from up north, they're terrified of termites. It is a manageable problem. Termites come from the ground. They return to the ground for moisture. I actually brought in a piece of wood. Works great on the radio to have a visual.
That's right.
But
We like it.
yeah, hopefully, but it helps me to explain it as they eat the spring wood. So, when you see termite damage, it looks like pages of a book, and there's dirt where dirt shouldn't be. But if you treat the soil adjacent or a bait station, most of the termite companies are excellent in the area, treating it and giving you a warranty or a bond, and keep that bond up, because typically homeowners policies do not cover termite damage, so that's why a bond is important.
But also, people need to understand, even if you have a brick house, you can get termites.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
well, that brick house has wood
And it's-
Yeah.
studs
exactly.
and
Any house,
framing.
and just because it's had termites doesn't mean that it is a major problem in the future. It can be remediated. If there was a large amount of damage done, then I would assume that Preston and even Laura would recommend that maybe a professional come out and check the foundation, make sure the integrity of
For
the
sure.
property is maintained.
Structural
Fine,
engineer.
structurally.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
regardless, you need to expect, if you're buying a home or even if you're selling a home, that termites may pop up, and it can be fixed, and the home can still be an absolutely saleable, occupiable home. So very
Yeah.
good. All right, so let's talk about moisture, Preston. What's high moisture? I mean, we see this in the spring season, right?
Right. Well, we're talking about typically moisture in a crawl space. That's
Correct.
trouble. There's a lot of companies out there that solve that problem. We didn't have this back when we all lived in ranch houses, because the distance from the front to the back of the house was so short. You had good airflow. But when we started building the McMansions with the 3-car garages, and we increased the size of the crawl space, and then you got that air conditioning duct under there that's a magnet, basically.